What is going on, people of the internet? Hyper Chaotic here with a K, double R, and welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time visiting my channel. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a good minute, about most of my commentaries are in the heat of the moment type projects. Some of them are on topics that I am a little bit late to, but if I still feel like talking about it, I'm going to talk about it. Other than that, recently, it's definitely been in the heat of the moment type projects. And this is definitely one of them. I feel like this would work better as a well scripted video essay, but I'm the type of guy that if I just don't get to what's on my mind and get to this project, then I'm not going to want to do it at all once that heat of the passion dies down. Anyways, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail of this video, today I want to talk about why not using TikTok does not completely save your privacy and your data from being abused and collected by the CCP. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of videos specifically picking on TikTok for its data collecting and directly giving it to the CCP. Now, some may ask, why would TikTok do that? Simple. The company that made TikTok, ByteDance, is directly owned by the Chinese government. And if you're actually listening to that and your first reaction is, gasp, I would have never thunk it, that should not be a fucking surprise to you. About 90%, if not all the corporations, especially social media corporations, based in China, owned by Chinese corporations, are, well, pretty much owned and run by the Chinese state, by the CCP. So, if for some reason hearing that is a surprise for you, you've basically been living under a rock. But chaotic, I like the content on TikTok, and I still want to use it, then use it. Personally, I don't give a fuck. I still use it myself. What am I scared about? Which government looks in my porn history as if the American government doesn't do it too? And to other countries, to other governments' people. Now, I could already hear people saying, "Oh, but chaotic. This isn't just any government; it's the CCP. They want to control what you want to say." So that's the American government. But given the way the states is built and the way its people are built, they can never truly do that. The most they can do is pay the corporations to do it for them and say, "Oh, well, our rules, they're not connected to your legal rights, so, oh well, sucks to be you." If you literally think that the CCP can't convince YouTube to not suppress videos criticizing the Chinese government, then you're dead wrong. In fact, I have actually seen quite a few videos criticizing the CCP and talking about their economic situation and how it's about to crash and how it's bad for all of us. And from said creators, they would talk about how their video could be suppressed in the algorithm for criticizing the Chinese government. Again, on YouTube. YouTube. Not TikTok. YOU. Tube. TUBE. In case you were that fucking hard-headed and didn't get what I was saying. Because some of y'all act like TikTok is China's only way to collect data. No, TikTok just makes things way easier. Because then they can get that data directly instead of having to go through a third party. But it doesn't mean they won't still go through a third party. You think they're not talking to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Reddit? Reddit loves to talk a lot of shit about how, the TikTok is owned by the Chinese government. And then turn around and act like Reddit isn't also owned by the Chinese government. And also act like they don't also censor shit on Reddit like they do on TikTok. I once found a song about hypocrisy, and I think it kind of goes like this. No, I don't care if I get a copyright claim for this one. But it kind of goes like this. Hypocrites, fucking hypocrites. If you're familiar with that song, then you probably know what I'm talking about. If I can find that song, I'll leave it in the description down below if you want to hear it for yourself. And play it for every hypocrite you've ever talked to. Hypocrites, fucking hypocrites. I know I don't got a singing voice for shit. But seriously though, a lot of y'all are some real major fucking hypocrites. TikTok's bad for this, that, and the third. What about the same platform you're on, which is also owned by the government? Oh, Reddit's different. How dare you talk negative about Reddit? Shut the fuck up. To all the people who say they have a problem with the argument of all governments, all corporations, all software, all apps collect data, and then turn around and say, but it's a CCP, they'll control what you want to say. I have a problem with that argument too. As I just said, that doesn't fucking matter. Just because they don't own YouTube doesn't mean they can't buy their data or tell them to suppress that shit anyways. They literally already do. They already do. It doesn't make a difference if you're on TikTok or YouTube. They already do. The only platforms you're going to go on and not be censored by the Chinese government is BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey. Hello to the viewers if you're watching on those platforms, because I'm also going to be uploading this video there as well. But right now, as of right now, as far as video platforms go, as far as social media platforms go, those are the only 3 platforms that I can think of right off of the top of my head that will not silence you for the Chinese government. YouTube is already doing that. Don't think you're fucking safe because you're not on TikTok. You're a fucking naive child if you do. TikTok just makes it easier for the CCP. That's all it does. You, as a user, directly download it and, without your knowledge and without your consent, directly provide your data to them. It just makes it easier for them, and it makes it cheaper for them because they don't have to go through a third party and buy it from them. But that doesn't mean they don't still take that option. That doesn't mean they don't still talk to the other platforms and ask them to silence that shit, to suppress that media on their platform. There are plenty of critical CCP videos on YouTube that are being suppressed for that reason. YouTube has nothing to do with TikTok. But yet, here's these people talking negative about the CCP, and their videos are being suppressed. Gee, it's almost like it doesn't make a fucking difference. That's why people keep using that argument. That's why people say it doesn't matter. Everybody's collecting your data. It doesn't matter if you don't use TikTok. But it won't be directly sent to the Chinese government. No, but they can always still buy it from them. Nothing is stopping from them to going to the YouTube store and be like, hey YouTube, can we buy some data? We want some knowledge on your users. Oh, by the way, here's an extra couple of $1,000 or so, $100,000. Make sure to suppress any videos being critical of our governments. They already do that shit. Being on TikTok, being on YouTube, being on Twitter, it doesn't make a fucking difference. It literally doesn't. Now, some of you might be saying, okay, well, Chaotic, what do you recommend? What's your advice? What should I do if I want to completely avoid the Chinese government getting my data at all? To stop providing data to any of these corporations who will give it to the Chinese government at all? Well, I got 3 options for you. Let's start off with option A. I was actually going to save option A as option C, but I think I should mention option A first because it's the easiest one to do. It is so fucking simple An infant can do it. But here's the funny thing: it's going to be the most difficult option for people to take. Whoa, chaotic. What is option A? Option A is stop using the internet permanently. Don't ever go online ever again. Don't use phones. Don't use computers. Don't use an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Nintendo Switch. Don't use a smart TV. The only piece of technology when it comes to media you should ever use again is a regular television that uses regular antenna. Don't get no internet, nothing. The only technology you should be using is one with no screen or the ability to connect to the internet. I can already hear some people saying, chaotic, that is beyond fucking drastic. I'm not going to do that. So what's option B? Well, option B is quite a few steps, but a lot less steps than option C, which is almost exactly the same as option B, but with a different operating system. We'll get to that in a sec. Option B, for those who want to stay on their original hardware and software, whether it be Windows, Apple, Android. Option B is to install a VPN. Okay, makes sense. Good start. Anybody can do that. It's going to cost money. It's not free. But that's a good start. Okay, install a VPN. Then what? Stop using browsers like Chrome and Firefox. Only use browsers like Brave and the Tor network. For those of you who are not familiar with the Tor network, or if you are familiar but you can't remember where you've heard that from, it's typically known as the primary, the primary browser to use when it comes to going on the deep web and the dark web, which are technically kind of separate. Deep web is all the hidden information you won't get on Google. The dark web is where all the illegal shit is. The shit you don't want to look at. But even then, you gotta really look for it. So don't worry about just stumbling onto that shit. You literally gotta look for that. You gotta look. You're not just gonna stumble onto a CP website or a drug selling website or a website selling guns. You actively have to go out of your way to look for that stuff. So if you're hearing me talk about the Tor network and you're thinking, no, relax. You're not just going to stumble on some illegal website. You have to look for it. The only way you're going to find it is if you look for it actively. Look for it. All you're going to do is get the stuff that Google won't give you. They could, but they just won't. It's not illegal. Well, depending on your country, I guess. But for the most part, it's not this immoral shit. And the thing with Tor is, like Brave, it doesn't collect data. But on top of that, it'll mask your IP address. And now I could already see some people saying, well, if it already masks my IP address like a VPN, I mean, it kind of basically works like with a built-in VPN, to be honest, then why would I still install a VPN? Double protection. Added layers. A much thicker onion. And hey, some people will sometimes even recommend running 2, running 3, if it doesn't slow your computer down too much. Or your search results when going online. Next, literally use no other software ever again other than your VPN and your Tor or Brave browser. Because that other shit is going to register your data. I mean, well, running the VPN may help with that, but I'm not very tech savvy in that department. So hopefully somebody who has more knowledge on that could tell me whether or not that would help. But plenty of other softwares out there are probably collecting your data without you knowing about it. Hell, I'm currently using a video editor called VSDC because it's the only free one I can find. I guarantee you they're probably collecting some data and selling that shit on the side. If I was spending money on some shit like, I don't know, Filmora, Sony Vegas, Adobe, I promise you, they're collecting data and making money off of the side, on the side, with your data. So again, I don't know for sure 100% if a VPN will help with that. But if it doesn't, or not completely, then simply put it, literally use no other software ever again but your VPN and your no data collecting browser. This is both for PC and your phones, Android and Apple. You can get them on both. Okay, well, you may be hearing this and still think, chaotic, that still sounds a bit drastic. Yes, but we're talking about making sure they never get your data out at all, right? Full blown protection of your privacy? Then you have to go the drastic measures. You can't take it easy. Because these motherfuckers will do everything in their hands to collect your data. That's more money in their pocket, and that's all they give a fuck about. Okay? There should be fucking common sense right now. These companies don't give a fuck about you. They will gladly sell your data to the highest bidder. So please stop acting like YouTube gives a fuck about you and not using TikTok makes you completely safe, because you're not. Now, let's finally go over option C. As I said before, option C requires you to completely switch operating system. Switch your operating system to what, you may ask? Linux. Now, before I get into that, first thing I have to say is there is no one version of Linux, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not talking about something like something like Windows, like how they have Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows Vista. No, I'm not talking about something like that. This is a decentralized operating system made by many indie devs out there with many different versions of Linux. Which one will be right for you for the tasks you have to do? It may depend on that version. You also have to take into consideration configuration with your hardware and drivers. Which, by the way, there is no fucking tech support you can call to help you with that, because this is a decentralized operating system that is not made by a company, or at least not one single company. These are many different individual versions made by individual people and groups separately. Now, they may communicate with each other a little bit with solving certain problems, bugs, and whatnot, but for the most part, it's every man for themselves. Linux is completely ran by its community, its fandom, and that is it. All contribution to Linux working, even existing in its many forms, is all done by the community. You're not going to get any tech support. You want tech support, you got to talk to the community. And bad news, buddy. Have you ever heard all those jokes making fun of how a bunch of dickheads, cultish dickheads that Apple users can be? Well, to the Apple users, we must apologize to you guys, because you guys are nowhere near as worse as the cult-like sorry fucking cunts that the Linux community is. Now, of course, not everybody. I should not generalize. But finding a nice guy, a decent human being within the Linux community is few and far in between. Now, when you find them, you will know you will find them. Okay, you will know. When you meet them, they will be the nicest person ever. I swear to God, you might as well be talking to Casper the Friendly Ghost. And that is how friendly they are. The nicest people on this planet. And you wonder, how is it that you're in this community full of fucking scum? In this community, in a sea of scum, you're the one nice, decent person offering help. That's what it's like trying to get help from the Linux community. You're going to go through all these assholes who will treat you like you're beneath them, that will belittle you for not even understanding the basics of an operating system you're just getting into for your very first time. How dare you not understand the ins and outs of Linux on your very first day? You're a piece of shit for even think you can run that software on your computer. You're a dumb, ignorant bastard. Well, fuck you, buddy. I just wanted to get my drivers working. All I did was ask you, how do I get this driver to work? This code terminal command is not working. And you had to get all butthurt over a question. Well, I guess my ass is back off to Windows or Apple. And I'm not just talking out of my ass, ladies and gentlemen. I am not just exaggerating. There are even some within the Linux community that recognize how fucking dickish the community can be sometimes compared to Windows and Apple combined. I mean, some of the worst sorry fucking cunts that you will ever talk to talk to in your fucking life. I mean, people who mastered the art of making you feel like shit for using an operating system. And yet these are the exact same people that will tell you to switch over to this operating system because it's quote unquote better, it's quote unquote perfect, far from. Pretty decent operating system. I would love to give it a try more if it could actually work, depending on the version, of course. But I don't got all the time in a day to learn every single code command for a terminal. Which, by the way, you have to go through the terminal just to even install programs. If you're one for gaming, if you do video editing, audio editing, and all that type of stuff, you're going to have to go through a lot of trouble to get the right version of Linux that'll work for you. That'll work with the programs you'll need. That'll work with your hardware. That'll work with the drivers. And if it doesn't, you manually have to go through all that configuration. Because it's just not worth going through those sea of cunts. I feel like dying and going to literal hell would be a breeze, would basically be a vacation compared to even communicating with these cunts known as Linux elitists. But if you wanted to go full anonymity, full privacy protection, and still be able to hopefully be able to use the softwares you need to use to do the work you need to do, you would have to go full-blown Linux. Still set up a VPN just in case. Of course, still use Tor, which I'm pretty sure they may or may not have it automatically installed depending on the version. And of course, also Brave. And, well, when it comes to the softwares you use, just be careful who you're getting it from. But that is option C. Completely switch over to Linux. Look for the right version that will work with your hardware, the drivers, and hopefully will be compatible with the right software for the work that you need to get done. And never use anything else that isn't directly provided by the Linux community. Or at the very least, respects your privacy. But here's the thing though. Unless you're even the slightest tech savvy, you're not going to do that. Unless you have enough time in your week, you're not going to do that. There are a lot of average people out there that are trying to convince their mother, their father, their little sister, their slightly older brother, who are not tech savvy, who don't understand how that shit works, that don't know shit like Linux exists, trying to convince them to switch over to protect their privacy. If you want to help protect their privacy that bad, then you're going to have to go and do that shit for them yourself. Because that's a whole project and a half to get a whole another operating system working on your device, especially Linux. And supposedly there are Linux versions for phones. Never heard of it. Never seen that before in my life. I am interested to see what it looks like. But again, nobody is going to fucking do that. Unless people can just buy a Linux computer fresh out of the box and have it work fresh out of the box. People are not going to do that. Why do you think we keep buying from these fucking big corporations? Why do you think people keep buying Windows computers, Apple computers, Android and Apple phones? They need that shit to work right out of the fucking box. Ain't nobody got that time to start getting a little tech savvy, to learn a whole terminal, to learn a whole computer program just to get a single fucking program to work, or a driver, or make sure it configurates with your hardware. I'm not joking when I say this is a whole project and a half. The average Joe's not going to figure this shit out. As somebody who is at least slightly tech savvy, as somebody who has done the research on this stuff, as somebody who has at least been through 4 versions of Linux, it is a pain in the fucking ass. It is difficult. It is a headache. It is a project and a half. You will be sitting there for minutes, maybe hours, trying to get that shit to work. But if you really want to protect your privacy that bad, that's as far as you can go without getting too extreme. Like completely abandoning other software or abandoning going online permanently. And again, the average person is not going to know how to do that. So no matter what, we're still going to have these people out there that are going to be pretty much be defeated. I am defeated. As I just mentioned, I've been through 4 versions of Linux. It was such a pain in the fucking ass just to get that shit to work on my computer that I gave up. I gave up and I went right back to Windows. Because I don't have any other option. I have other shit to do. I have this YouTube channel, a bunch of other projects, a lot of collectibles to go through, a whole house to clean before I can sit there for hours messing around in a terminal just trying to get a driver to work with my computer's graphics card. Never mind installing a program that I need to edit my videos. I'm sorry, but there is no argument you can make. Nobody's just going to jump ship to Linux. It is not casual user friendly. It is not hard working friendly. It is not high-end PC friendly. There are people out there with $2,000 to $3,000 rigs who can't even get Linux to run right on their PC because they're still having configuration issue after configuration issue after configuration issue. Your most simplest bet is option B. Use Tor or Brave with a VPN. And from there, if you still want to use or still need to use some of this other software that badly, then for those circumstances, you got to say, fuck it. I guess I'm just going to have to deal with the data collecting. Again, assuming the VPN doesn't help with that, you're just going to have to deal with it. Because if you don't want to completely switch over to a new operating system, there is no complete protection of your privacy. There is no way to completely deny these companies your data. That is virtually impossible. Not just that, it's
not scientifically possible!
Because again, unless you just simply never go on the internet ever again, there is no way to not provide data at all. even on Linux, you still have to provide data. You personally have to provide data, at least to help Linux keep functioning. Since most of the contribution to getting Linux to work and all these versions out there is all done by the community, by the independent community. It's decentralized software, which is why there's not decentralized operating system, which is still software, which is why there's so many versions, which is why there's no tech support. And which is why some people may have issues with configuration on certain hardware. They really can't take all hardware into consideration because they're not a big company. They're not centralized. So yeah, if you don't want to go to that extreme, option B. Because even with Linux, you still have to provide some sort of data, like bug reports or issue fixes. It is virtually impossible to not still provide data in one way, form, or fashion when going online. There are only ways to limit it. That is it. If you want to at least limit the amount of data you provide to these corporations and to these governments, option B or option C. If you don't want to provide them data at all, option A. Abandon the internet entirely. And I know some of you won't do that. Some of you won't even get the fuck off of YouTube for as much as you talk about protecting your privacy. If you don't want the CCP to collect your data, then why the fuck are you on YouTube? I know I just did a 30-minute video talking about that, but really sit there and think about that. If you really are that concerned about your privacy and your data, why the fuck are you on YouTube? Thoughts, opinions, agree, disagree? Maybe you're a bit of a fence sitter. Let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. If not, leave a dislike in the comments telling me why. Any and all interaction is good interaction. Or should I say, data for the algorithm. Any and all interaction is data for the algorithm. And good for my channel. But still, data. Chaotic out. Have a good one.